fight ain't over yet.
Amen.
Aquaman is the newest entry to the DCEU, directed by James Wan, and is an adaptation of the characters from the DC Comics. It is the story of an half-breed, half-man, half-Atlantean who grew up in the surface world, but now he needs to go back to Atlantis to claim his rightful place as king and stop his half-brother from starting a war with the surface. So how was the movie? I thought it was pretty good? No, I thought it was awesome. I thought it was a refreshing, epic fantasy adventure. Starting with the performances though, Jason Momoa makes the role his own. Amber Heard does just enough of what's required of her. I've never been a big fan of her acting, but I think she did Mira justice. She was badass and I thought the chemistry with Momoa was there, which surprised me since it didn't seem to be there in the trailers, but I bought it. These two killed it. Momoa displayed an unexpected charm and charisma, more than he ever did in his entire career, and more than he did in Justice League. Just like Gal Gadot, Momoa is also proving that a director can make all the difference. The movie has more art than any other DCEU movie before it, in my opinion. Aquaman is now more fleshed out than Superman and Batman combined, and it took him only one movie. There was a scene where Aquaman was literally putting his body between bad guys and innocent people, something Superman failed to do in Man of Steel. Aquaman did Superman better than Superman, and that's coming from a big fan of Man of Steel. But I just understand that criticism now, and after watching this movie, you'll get it too. The visuals are very impressive. This movie is overly ambitious, and even though it doesn't always work in its favor, I think it does enough to keep it fun to make you overlook its weaknesses. And yes, this movie is not perfect at all. It has some narrative issues. For example, like Kryptonians, Atlanteans have issues breathing when coming in the surface. They throw up and need to adjust. Yet at some point that detail is completely overlooked and everyone is fine now. No one is throwing up after coming out of water anymore. That threw me off. This movie also suffers from issues most origin stories suffer from. That involves too many flashbacks and expositions, and even though it didn't handle these issues better than Wonder Woman did, it definitely handled it better than Man of Steel. Every flashbacks and expositions had a role to play later in the film, so when a flashback ends up having a huge payoff, you can forget how annoyed you were about it. This movie also has some weird backgrounds at times. I couldn't tell if they were just green screen or if they tried to replace a natural background with a fake one. Either way, at times it looked weird. Some de-aging also looked weird, especially the one on Aquaman's father. Some shots gave me Justice League Superman flashbacks, but it wasn't as noticeable most of the time. It was fine. Back to the positive side, the fight scenes are out of this world. James Wan's use of the camera in this is very creative and makes every fight scene look and feel sophisticated and cool. The adventurous feel this movie gives is also a big plus. Sometimes it looked like Spielberg could have directed this. The score is also pretty good. The Aquaman theme is very rock and roll. It strikes the right balance between the traditional score and the mainstream music you would hear in a bar. There is a scene though where Aquaman and Mira are coming out of the ocean, and I thought the music choice in that specific scene was very bad. But that's just me. The bad guys are great. Orm could have used a bit more development, but his motivations were understandable, so it was not bad for the sake of being bad. I can't even predict a Loki Thor relationship between him and Aquaman if a sequel is made. They don't hate each other. It was never personal. They just have different views and principles, and I can actually see them make up and get along later. As for Black Manta, even though he's more or less just a background villain, he has potential and is as badass as he looks, just like in the comics. Hopefully a sequel happens so we get more development for him. Aquaman is a fun, funny and epic movie with great characters I would love to see more of. I cannot wait to see it again, and if I had to give it a score, I would say 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I had a great time. So I encourage you to go and watch this movie.